Good evening. Thank you for calling and being here, calling in, coming in, chiming in, all of those good kind of things. Really delighted. And welcome from many different places. And this evening, again, we are working with Words of My Perfect Teacher. And we are up to chapter 3. And again, it's called Words of My Perfect Teacher Review. And review because we're not going over every detail, but we're making some highlights. And of course, being in accord with our Longchen Nyingtig Nunjo, which the Words of My Perfect Teacher is really a companion, a guide, and our friend. And this evening will be a little bit different in that we're going to talk about Vajrasattva and to give a more thorough reading of the Vajrasattva practice. So I'm going to read a few more pages than I normally read. Our time will be the same. But when we're looking at Vajrasattva, it's super important to know, well, of course, what we're doing, why we are doing it, and also what is happening during the Vajrasattva practice. So we know that Vajrasattva is for purification. And on page 264 and beginning of chapter 3, it talks about what are we purifying. And what we are purifying is negative actions, obscurations, and we hear this word obscurations quite a bit. What does that mean? It means that which is obscuring our own Buddha nature. And we are also purifying habitual tendencies. And of course, those are from past actions, habits, shall we say. And then on the top of page 64, it's best to illuminate what those obscurations are. Because as we identify what we are working with, it allows for a clear purification. So on the second to last paragraph on page 264, talks about purification with confession. So we're not just generally purifying, but really we're taking a good hard look at ourselves and also what can be changed and what can be let go of. And Vajrasattva is there to help us. So it says, however, purification only takes place when you confess sincerely in the right way, using the 4 powers as antidotes. The purification process will never work if your eyes and mouth are otherwise occupied. So again, we want to recognize what it is that we are purifying. And it says, you can say words like, I admit, I confess. While your mind is busy pursuing other thoughts, though, that doesn't work out real well. But to think that if in the future I do wrong, it won't matter because I confess, that doesn't work either. So rather, we're trying to make a change. Or we can say, oh, I'll confess later. That doesn't work either. So Patrul Rinpoche was kind of smart in that way. He knew all the ways that we might not really want to confess and purify. And Jetson Milla, which is Milarepa, says, you may doubt that confession can really purify negative actions, but if your thoughts have become positive, then you are purified. And so we can start to notice when we're doing more practice that indeed there is purification. It is absolutely fundamental that any confession should include as an antidote of all the four powers. So what are the four powers? The power of support, and support is the refuge in Vajrasattva. So we are going to Vajrasattva as a support. We're also, as just mentioned, arousing regret. But along with regret is the bodhicitta. And we have bodhicitta at the same time. We also make a resolution to not do this again, whatever it may be, and also to activate. So let's see what that is all about. The power of support, again, is on page 265. And then comes the power of regret, the bottom of 265, recognizing what we have done. Then the power of resolution, remembering what that fault is, saying I won't do that again, and vowing to stop. And it says, without a vow for the future from now on, there's no purification. So I make the vow for the future from now on that even at the cost of my life, I will do no negative action. And then the power of action as an antidote. So the power of action as an antidote is prostrations. So some people are saying, well, what are prostrations for? So these are an antidote and part of the purification process. And it's right on number 4, page 266 at the bottom. And a lot of these tell stories about different practitioners and how they went about doing their purifications. So again, just to go over this, important steps. We're not going to go into depth. We've covered many of these things previously. And so the purification of negative actions, the obscuration of Buddha nature, habitual tendencies from past actions, and we want to bring those obscurations to the forefront and to purify with confession. And we want to utilize the 4 powers, which is the practice of Vajrasattva that we are going to do in a moment. And we are also going to recognize regret as being important and the arousing of bodhicitta at the same time. And this starts to move the energy and making a resolution not to do that again. And then positive action. And that we also make the resolution very important. And then also recognizing, this is very interesting, number 4, power of action, which is that the antidote is positive action. So, we might say, well, in the past, I didn't do this so great, or I used to do that. But as we do more positive actions, whether it's of body, speech, and mind, that really starts to reshape the habitual patterns, right? And it's where we think, nope, not going to do that. Okay, going to do this, and begin to gear the mind in such a way. And then just like mentioned, we start to notice that that does impact our own thoughts, and our own thoughts become more positive. So a little bit different this evening, which I haven't done to this extent, but I think that Words of My Perfect Teacher provides a very beautiful guidance. Patrul Rinpoche provides a very beautiful guidance on the Vajrasattva practice. So what I am going to do is to read the pages of Vajrasattva practice, and we can take it in however feels comfortable. Maybe, yeah, I'd like to do a little bit of meditating while I'm listening, or maybe just reflecting. I want to reflect on this. How have I been doing the practice so far? Can I add something from this reading? Or maybe just listening. Sometimes just listening is incredibly beneficial. So however it feels right to do, or perhaps read along. I'm going to be reading page 267 through the end of 273. Long reading. And then we're going to skip to page 276. So again, however it feels comfortable, but we have not done this before, and I feel like I would like for everyone to hear. I know not everybody has the book Words of My Perfect Teacher, so perhaps just listening is very good. So this starts with the number 3, the actual meditation on Vajrasattva. For the visualization that follows, see yourself as staying in your ordinary form. Suspend in space an arrow's length above your head. Visualize an open white lotus with 1,000 petals, and upon it the disk of a full moon. We say a full moon here not to indicate how big the disk should be, but to signify that it is perfectly round and regular and looks completely like a full moon on the 15th day of the lunar month. Upon this lunar disk, visualize a brilliant white syllable, whom. In other traditions, the syllables emanate and reabsorb rays of light, but that is not the case here. In an instant, the whom transformed into your glorious root teacher, that incomparable mind of compassion, who is essence, is the nature of all Buddhas, of past, present, and future. He appears in the form of the Sambhogakaya Buddha, Vajrasattva, white in color, like a snow peak, lit by 100,000 suns. He has one face and 2 arms. With his right hand, he holds before his heart the 5-pronged Vajra of awareness and emptiness. With his left, he rests the bell of appearance and emptiness at his left hip. His 2 legs are crossed in the Vajra posture, and he is adorned with the 13 ornaments of the Sambhogakaya, the 5 silken garments and 8 jewels. The 5 silken garments are a headband, an upper garment, a long scarf about a lower garment. The 8 jewels are the crown, earrings, a short necklace, an armlet on each arm, 2 long necklaces, one longer than the other, a bracelet on each wrist, a ring on each hand, and an anklet on each foot. Vajrasattva is seated above your head, facing in the same direction as you. He embraces inseparable union his consort, Vajrasattva, who is also white. Their bodies are empty appearances, vividly present, but without any substance of their own, like reflections of the moon and water, of forms reflected in a mirror. This visualization provides the power of support. It is not a flat image like a tanka or a fresco, nor is it an inert inanimate like a clay or a gold statue, which is solid and material. It appears every detail, clearly and distinctly, even the pupils and whites of his eyes. Yet it is empty. There is not one atom of solid substance to it, no flesh, no blood, no internal organs. It is like a rainbow appearing in space, or an immaculate crystal vase. And it is imbued with wisdom. Lord Vajrasattva is identical in nature with your own compassionate root teacher, and his mind reaches out to you and to all beings with great love. As the power of regret in his presence called to mind all of the negative actions you can think of that you have accumulated until now, in one samsaric existence after another, since time without beginning, the 10 negative actions of body, speech, and mind, the 5 crimes with immediate retribution, the 4 serious faults, the 8 perverse acts, all transgressions of the eternal vows of Patimokkha, the inner bodhisattva precepts, the secret tantra samayas of the Vijaras, all the ordinary promises that you have not kept, all the lies you have told, everything you have done that is shameful and dishonorable. Feel that you are confessing them all to in the teacher of Vajrasattva's presence, your whole body breaking out in goose flesh with shame, fear, and remorse. You can be sure that during all those infinite lives in samsara, you have done many negative actions that you cannot remember. So confess them all, saying, I am keeping nothing secret. I am hiding nothing. I confess openly and ask for forgiveness. Have compassion on me. Right away, at this very moment, in this very place, cleanse and purify me of all of my negative actions and obscurations, so that not a single one remains. As the power of resolve, think, until now I have accumulated those harmful negative actions because of my ignorance and confusion. But now, thanks to the compassion of my kind teacher, I know what is beneficial and what is harmful. And I will never commit them again, even if it costs me my life. Keeping in mind the pure meaning of the visualization, reciting the root text from the beginning and down to as far as the words, purify me until not a single one remains. Then, in the heart of Vajrasattva, who is indivisibly united with his consort, visualize a lunar disk no bigger than a flattened mustard seed, and upon it a white hum, as fine as if it had been drawn with a single hair. As you recite the 100-syllable mantra once, Om Vajrasattva Samaya, and so on, visualize its symbols arranged around the hum in a circle. None of them touch each other, like the horns of cattle when they stand close together. Then recite the 100 syllables as a prayer, imagining at the same time that a nectar of compassion and wisdom drips down from each of the syllables, one glistening drop after another, like water dripping down from ice as it melts near a fire. Pouring down through the body of Vajrasattva, the nectar emerges with the point union of the deity and the consort, passing through the crown of your head, flows into you, into all sentient beings too. Like particles of earth being washed away by a powerful stream, all of your physical illnesses are flushed out in the form of rotten blood and pus. All negative forces are expelled in the form of spiders, scorpions, toads, fish, snakes, tadpoles, lice, and the like. and all harmful actions and obscurations as black liquid, dust, smoke, clouds, vapors. All this is carried away by the irresistible flood of nectar, pours out of your body as a black shower through the lower orifices, the soles of your feet, and all the pores of your skin. The earth beneath you opens up, and in the depths appears death, personification of your past actions, surrounded by all the male and female beings to whom you owe karmic debts, and all those who seek to venge themselves on your flesh. While you recite the 100-syllable mantra, visualize all those impurities pouring down into their open mouths, into the hands and arms they raise expectantly toward you. If you can, visualize the whole process simultaneously. Otherwise, you can alternate. As you recite the mantra, sometimes concentrate on the body of Vajrasattva, his face, hands, and so on, sometimes on his ornaments and clothing, sometimes on the flow of nectar purifying illnesses, negative forces, evil actions, obscurations, sometimes on your regret for what you have done, and your resolve never to repeat it. At the end, imagine the death, the embodiment of the past actions, all other below the earth, every kind of karmic creditor, all those who seek vengeance on your flesh are appeased and satisfied, and past scores have been settled, and debts have been repaid, and vengeance has been appeased. You are cleansed of all past negative actions, obscurations. Death closes his mouth and hands, lowers his arms. The earth closes again. Imagine your body has now become transparent inside and out, a body of light running vertically down inside. Visualize the central channel at 4 points along with whose length are the 4 wheels where channels branch out radially like the spokes of an umbrella. At the level of your navel is the wheel of the manifestation with 64 radial channels turning upward. At the level of your heart is the wheel of Dharma with 8 radial channels turning downward. In your throat is the wheel of enjoyment with 16 radial channels turning upward. In the crown of your head is the wheel of great bliss with 32 radial channels turning downward. The nectar then starts to flow down as before. Beginning with the wheel of great bliss at the crown of your head, it completely fills the central channel. Each of the 4 wheels spreads outwardly, filling your body with the tips of your fingers and toes, brimming with white nectar. You are like a crystal vase with milk. Think that you are receiving the 4 empowerments: the vase empowerment, secret empowerment, wisdom empowerment, precious word empowerment. You are also purified of the 4 kinds of obscurations: karmic obscurations, obscurations of negative emotions, conceptual obscurations, obscurations of habitual tendencies. The wisdom of the 4 joys arise in you: joy, supreme joy, extraordinary joy, innate joy. The levels of the 4 kayas are established in you: the nirmanakaya, sambhogakaya, dharmakaya, svabodhakaya. And then reciting the prayer, O protector, in ignorance and confusion, and ending with, I beg you, cleanse and purify me. Imagine the moment you recite these lines, the teacher Vajrasattva is delighted and, smiling, grants your prayers with these words: Fortunate ones, all of your negative actions, obscurations, violations, breaches are purified. He then melts into light and dissolves in you, and so that you yourself are now transformed into Vajrasattva, just as you visualize him before. Visualize in your heart a moon disk the size of a flattened mustard seed. In its center stands a blue hum. In front of the hum is the white syllable Om. To its left is the word Vajra in yellow. Behind is Sa in red. to the right is Sva in green. As you recite Om Vajrasattva Hum, 5 rays of light, white, yellow, red, green, and blue, emanate from the respective syllables in an upward direction. At the end of these rays are the Lady of Beauty, the other offering goddesses. From their hands emanate innumerable offerings, such as the 8 auspicious symbols, the 7 royal attributes, fringed parasols, victory banners, canopies, 1,000-spoke golden wheels, white conch shells, spiraling to the right, and so on. These offerings delight all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the inconceivable, infinite pure fields of the 10 directions, completing the accumulations, purifying your obscurations. All the Buddha's compassion, blessings come streaming back in the form of light rays of different colors which dissolve into you. Think that as a result, you attain the supreme and common accomplishment. The 4 levels of Vajras related to the path, the ultimate result, the state beyond learning. The visualization establishes the connection through which you will realize the Dharmakaya and benefit yourself. Then visualize that innumerable hundreds of thousands of multicolored rays shoot out downwards from the 5 syllables, touching all living beings, dwelling in the 6 realms of the 3 worlds, purifying all of their negative actions, obscurations, suffering, habitual tendencies, just like the light of the rising sun dispelling darkness. The whole universe becomes the Buddha field of manifest joy, and all beings within it transformed into white, yellow, red, green, and blue Vajrasattvas. Recite the mantra, imagining all of them are pronouncing the mantra, Om Vajrasattva Hum. 2. With immense humming sound, this visualization establishes the connections through which you will attain Rupakaya and benefit others. Concerning the type of visualization, the Dharma practice that spontaneously liberates habitual clinging says, bringing benefit to oneself and others by emanating and reabsorbing light, one is cleansed of conceptual obscurations. Using such visualization practices, the skillful means of the secret mantra Vajrayana enable one to accumulate inconceivable amounts of merit, wisdom in an instant, while simultaneously benefiting all living creatures throughout the universe. Recite the mantra as many times as you can, and when the time comes to conclude the session, visualize the whole universe, which you have been perceiving as a Buddha field of manifest joy, dissolves into the beings dwelling in it. The Vajrasattvas of the 5 families, these deities themselves then gradually melt into light, dissolve into you. Then you yourself melt into light from the outside inwards, and that light dissolves into the Om in your heart. The Om dissolves into the Vajra into the Sa into the Va, the Va into the Shabkyu of the Hum, and the Shabkyu into the small Ah into the body of the Ha, the body into the head into the crescent moon into the Bindu, and the Bindu into the Nada. The Nada in turn, like a rainbow, vanishes into space, dissolves into simplicity, free from any concepts and elaboration. Remain relaxed in that state. When thoughts start to arise, see clearly the whole universe and the beings it contains as the Buddha fields of Vajrasattva, and then dedicate the merit. By the merit of this practice, may I quickly attain the level of Vajrasattva. So that is a elaborate practice that we can do. And then there's a few tips, shall we say, on page 276. So if you stay undistracted and do not mix your recitation with ordinary speech, to say the 100-syllable mantra 108 times without interruption will undoubtedly purify all of your evil actions, obscurations, all violation, breaches of vows, samaya, such as Vajrasattva's promise. The 100-syllable mantra is the quintessence of the mind of all the Sugatas. It purifies all violations, all breaches, all conceptual obscuration. It is the supreme confession, and to recite it 108 times without interruption repairs all violations, breaches, and will save one from tumbling into the three lower realms. The Buddhas of past, present, and future will look on the yogi who recites it as a daily practice as their most excellent child, even in this very lifetime, and will watch over and protect you. At his death, he will undoubtedly become the finest of all of the Buddha's heirs. So this evening we had a more elaborate Vajrasattva, and it's also possible that we can follow this practice whether from the book or when we're doing our Nunjo practice through Samdenling, and to remember some of the points, sometimes just remembering and adding how incredible and how dynamic and how far-reaching this practice is can be very helpful. So thank you. And we will now stop our recording.